The wind had a way of finding every crack in the old ranch house, whispering through the boards like it knew secrets John Hale had buried years ago. He was 35, broad-shouldered, with hands rough from rope and soil, and eyes that had learned to look past trouble instead of into it. He lived alone on the high plain because solitude was honest. Cattle didn't lie. Fences broke for reasons you could fix. People were harder. That afternoon, he found her near the wash, half collapsed beneath a juniper, dust on her skirt, blood dark at the cuff of her sleeve. She looked to be around 30, dark hair tangled by the wind, eyes sharp even through pain. When he knelt, she flinched, not from the injury, but from him. "Easy," he said, keeping his voice low, hands open so she could see them. "You're hurt." She nodded once, jaw tight. "Don't touch me yet." He listened. That was rule one on a frontier where fear traveled faster than truth. He tore a strip from his kerchief and handed it to her instead. She bound her arm herself, fingers steady despite the tremor in her breath. Only then did she meet his gaze. "Name's Mara," she said. "I was headed north, horse spooked." "I'm John," he replied. "Ranch is a mile west. You can rest there." She hesitated, weighing him the way people did when they had learned to measure danger. Finally she stood, favoring her side. He offered his shoulder without stepping closer, and she accepted with a curt nod. By dusk she sat by his table, steam curling from a mug between her palms. He cooked beans and bread, set them down, then turned away to give her space. The house creaked, the fire popped. Silence settled into something almost peaceful. Later, when he brought a clean bandage, she stiffened. He paused. "Tell me when," he said. She took a breath. "Now." He worked carefully, eyes on the wound, movements precise. The mark beneath the torn cloth, a scar, old and deliberate, made his fingers still for half a heartbeat. He recognized brands, ranchers, gangs, men who thought they could own what they marked. His throat tightened, but he kept his voice even. "That's all," he said. "Yes." He finished, tied the knot, then leaned back, hands away. She watched him the whole time, alert, waiting for a mistake. It came later, not from him, but from memory. Night pressed in, coyotes sang far off. He set an extra blanket on the bench and turned to leave the room to her. "You don't have to go," she said, then caught herself. "I mean—" He stopped at the doorframe. "I'll be in the other room." She nodded, relief crossing her face, and then something else. Regret, perhaps, that she had expected the worst. Sleep didn't come easy for either of them. Near midnight she cried out, a sharp sound torn from a dream. John was on his feet before he thought, crossing the room, reaching for her shoulder. Her eyes flew open. "Your hands, that was wrong!" The words hit him like a blow. He froze, hands mid-air, then drew them back as if burned. "I'm sorry," he said, the apology immediate, absolute. "I should have spoken first." She sat up, breath ragged, shame and anger warring across her face. "I didn't mean—" She stopped, swallowed. "I know," he said quietly. "I crossed a line." He stepped back until the table pressed against his legs, putting distance between them. The room seemed smaller, the shadows longer. Outside, the wind rose, a low moan across the plain. Mara wrapped the blanket tighter around herself. "People don't ask," she said after a moment. "They just take." He nodded. "I won't." The night crept on, uneasy but intact. When morning came, the sky was iron grey. John brewed coffee, set it where she could reach it, and waited. She drank, eyes never leaving him. "I need to get moving," she said. "Your arm?" "I'll manage." He fetched her saddle from the barn, checked the cinch, led the horse to the yard. As she mounted, riders appeared on the ridge, 3 figures against the light. They didn't wave. Mara went pale. "They followed me." John felt the weight of years settle into his spine. He didn't reach for his rifle yet. "Who?" She didn't answer. The riders descended, hooves drumming, dust blooming. When they stopped at the fence, one man smiled without warmth. "Morning," he called. "We're looking for a woman." John stood between them and the porch. "You've found a ranch, not a crossroads." The man's gaze slid to Mara. "She owes us." Mara's voice was steady. "I owe you nothing." The second rider laughed. Hear that? She thinks she's free. John felt something cold and clear inside him. You're trespassing. The first man shrugged. Then let's be neighborly. We'll take her, be on our way. No, John said. Silence snapped tight. The third rider's hand drifted toward his holster. Mara leaned close, whispering, Don't! He shook his head, eyes on the men. Go. The first rider spat. You don't know what you're standing in. I know exactly, John replied. The man studied him, weighing risk. Ranchers who lived alone tended to be dangerous in quiet ways. At last, the rider tipped his hat with mock courtesy. Another day then. They turned, dust swallowing them as they rode back toward the ridge. Mara sagged in the saddle. John reached for the reins, then stopped himself, looked up at her. May I? She nodded. He steadied the horse, nothing more. You should go somewhere safe, he said. She met his eyes. They'll keep coming. Then stay, he said, as long as you need, on your terms. They worked out rules with care. He knocked before entering rooms. He spoke before touching. She told him when the nights were bad. He listened when the past surfaced in fragments, how she had been traded like a debt, how escape left marks that never fully faded. Days passed. The land changed color. Trust, fragile as glass, took shape. Then the riders came back at dusk, more of them this time. John sent Mara to the cellar, not as an order, but a request she accepted with a nod. He stood on the porch, rifle in hand, heart steady. They didn't stop at the fence. They came hard and fast, shouting. A shot cracked, wood splintered. John fired once into the dirt at their feet. Turn around. They didn't. The world narrowed to breath and choice. John fired again, this time to wound. A man fell. The others reined up, shock rippling through them. The leader stared, calculating. This isn't over, he snarled. John didn't answer. He didn't have to. They left with curses trailing behind them. Mara emerged after, eyes shining with something like awe and something like fear. You didn't have to. Yes, he said, I did. That night the wind died. The house held its warmth. Mara sat at the table, hands wrapped around her mug. When you reached for me, she said softly, I thought the world was ending again. I know, he replied. I'm sorry. She studied his hands, scarred, capable. You stopped. Always. She breathed out. That matters. Weeks later, she chose to stay longer. She helped mend fences, learned the rhythms of the place. He learned how to laugh again, carefully at first, then with ease. When he touched, he asked. When she said no, it meant no. When she said yes, it was hers to give. The riders never returned. Word traveled, so did reputation. One evening, as the sun bled gold across the plain, Mara stood beside him at the fence. I was afraid your kindness was a trick, she said. I don't blame you. She smiled, small but real. You faced something terrifying for me. He shook his head. I faced it for myself, for who I want to be. She reached out, this time taking his hand. Your hands, she said gently. They're right. The wind moved through the grass, not whispering now, but singing.